Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Arm Wrestling Tonight. This is Hollywood Matt Connolly with the double biceps that is in the contract, a legal requirement every single time we appear on camera, making sure the lawyers are happy, the boxes have been ticked. The man to my left, but could be to your right, depending on which sort of camera you're looking at, which sort of screen. It is the co-founder, the breather of air in this virtual room, the co-wearer of clothes. It is the master of disaster, the king of sting, the count of Monte Cristo. It is Thunderlips, the ultimate male. It is none other than your friend and mine. It is the winner of the Dave Stockbridge of the Year award, the illustrious award, not by the illustrious man with the illustrious beard. It is none other than Dave Stockbridge. Stockbridge, welcome to the show.
Oh, well, thank you for that very warm welcome. As always, Hollywood Matt Connolly, it's an absolute joy to join you here on Arm Wrestling Tonight. It is your 5-night-a-week half-hour dose of arm wrestling news, bringing to you some of the best up-and-coming talent and some of the legends of the sport. And on the screen right now is one such legend. He's normally the man giving the introductions, but he is the man that needs no introduction. It is Neil Pickup.
How you doing, guys? It freaked me out straight away when you're saying, yeah, good evening. It's really early this morning. What are you talking about? Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it, guys. It's nice.
Welcome to Arm Wrestling Morning.
Yeah.
and Neil, we were just talking off air about the impact that your dad's had on, the type, not just the type of man that you are, but the type of athlete that you've become, and you've just been in quiet reflection of how important those things are, and amidst all the controversies and the day-to-day tussle around arm wrestling and all the stuff that happens in the background, it's it all kind of pales in significance when you think about the importance of the roles that those people play in your life, and the standards that they've set for us, and really the legacy that they've left in terms of expectations and how it is that we handle ourselves as human beings. And your dad sounds like he's been an amazing inspiration to you over the years, and somebody who's really set the standards and helped you become the man you are today.
100%, mate. In terms of, I'm probably a poor reflection of my dad, to be perfectly honest. If you want the truth, my dad is far and away a better bloke than I've ever been. That's for sure. He's cut from a different cloth. He's from a different time. any and all failings that I have, he doesn't. He's my hero. He always has been, always will be. He's a dad. He's fantastic. He's my best friend, and he's someone that has always been a guide for me, always been clarity for me, always been any good elements of me or any positive elements within me, they've come from him. The failings haven't.
When you hold an unusual role in the world of sports, full stop, to be an announcer, a commentator, a matchmaker, a promoter, it's a real bespoke skill set, but there's nothing, you can't get a qualification for that at university. You can't. Who is it? Your father that gave you the strength to realize that you could be and do all of those things?
It's difficult to answer that question. My dad was always, and my mum, to be honest, always very, very supportive. Always rock for me. My dad was, because we've been so close all my life. He is very much an alpha male. He loves alpha male sports. It's funny. Sometimes it's a bit of a reality check, a pinch check. At weekend, I'm standing in front of a 12,000 strong, rabid crowd of fans in a packed out arena, commentating Britain's Strongest Man. I'm lucky enough to do the Giants Live World's Strongest Man Arena tour, and we do all the big venues, even the UK and internationally. And when you're in that kind of situation, I think back to being a baby, really, 3-4-year-old kid sat on my dad's knee watching World's Strongest Man, watching Jeff Cage, watching who recently passed away, rest in peace, Jeff, who's a massive inspiration for me, watching all the champions that have come and gone over the years. And now a lot of those men I call friends. They're people that I deal with on a regular basis. I mean, I used to watch a lot of Bill Kazmaier. He was the guy at that time when I was a baby, and yeah, I'd sit on my knee, watch Bill Kazmaier on World's Strongest Man, and now up to falling seriously ill recently. Bill was my co-commentator on the World's Strongest Man tour. So it's kind of a surreal thing, mate. Bit of a surreal thing, but that certainly all came from my dad. My dad backed me 100%. He's always been, I mean, he's a motor mechanic. He owns his own car mechanic business. Guy would work flat out all week, worked crazy hours. On a Friday night, he'd come home from work and would think nothing to getting in a car and driving me 5 hours south without having eaten or done anything. He'd just take a quick shower, jump in the car, drive me down south to a arm wrestling competition, to a fight competition, whatever I was involved with. I get beat, never say a word. So in actuality, if my dad doesn't give me that support, then I definitely do not stay with those sports, and I don't get to a situation where I get that confidence and self-belief. So anything that I am, I certainly owe him for that. And if I can, I'm lucky enough to have two sons. If I can ever be half the guy that my dad's been, I'll be more than happy with that one. I certainly hope that if I had one sort of aspiration with my sons in that respect, I hope that they genuinely are friends with me as I am with my dad when I'm an older man. So yeah, my dad. A lot of people say, I had it tough in life or whatever. I didn't. I had an amazing dad. We weren't rich or anything like that, but my mum and dad are amazing parents. Were incredible for me. So yeah, thanks, mum and dad.
We were talking off air that both your mum and dad aren't very well at the moment, and it must be difficult for you because you've got a really full schedule. You've got dates and traveling around the world, and I guess the worry about how they might be, and of course you want to be there for them. But how do you balance off all of that? It's you're spinning a lot of plates there.
Yeah, the honest answer to that one is, I guess we'll find out. Yeah, there is obviously going to be a lot of twists and turns ahead, and I don't know what they are and what the timings of them are. But my dad's always been very well. I mean, it's funny because my dad had always been like, you crack on and you get it done. That's what you do, because that's what men do. Do the job, get out, provide for your family, do what you do. That's it. And I will do that.
Yeah,
I will do what I need to do to try to provide for my parents and my family. That's what I've always been taught, and that's what I'll continue to do. Within that period of time, if my mum and dad need me, I will be there.
I think that's a wonderful bit of just life advice, that your dad's imparted on you there as well, and that you're sharing with the audience. It's probably not where we expected this podcast to be and go, but it's nonetheless, it's been quite touching to hear your story there. How did you get your start in arm wrestling? What was obviously mum and dad were very encouraging of you once you started, but did they get you involved in it?
My my original sport at the time, prior to arm wrestling, was fight sports. So a lot of my family have been fighters, boxers. I started boxing. My mum didn't like that at all. Funnily enough, my uncle Billy, great uncle Billy, fought for the world title. Fought Jackie Brown for the lightweight world title. Lost that fight, but he lost that on short notice. It's always been sort of a bit of a family tradition around fight sports, and everybody that all the members of my family just were involved in that, loved it, talked about it. one day you wake up and there you are, you're doing it yourself. And that was, I enjoyed it. I liked the discipline of it. I liked the training. I liked all those elements of that. My dad was into it. It was upsetting my mum. And my sort of the basis of my strength was strength and dynamism. I was very fast. So arm wrestling was one of the things my dad always did. When my dad owned, as I say, owned a motor repair shop, mechanic business, and very alpha male environment. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. When we go in there, they all trained. They were all big, powerful lads, manual labouring lads. I started to go to the gym with them, and after the finished training, they'd arm wrestle. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Across the brew bench, in the mechanic shop, they'd just arm wrestle, and I loved it. I loved that whole environment. My dad was a strong guy. A lot of the lads that worked with him were, and I just started. I wanted to try, so you start to do that. Started to arm wrestle, and after a very short period of time, a lot of the guys that worked with my dad were saying, "Jesus, Neil's really bloody strong, like really strong arm wrestling." And there was the film Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone, and there was a qualifier in Manchester. It was in the Daily Star newspaper, Sun newspaper. You could go and anybody could go and try out. And a friend of mine, Peter Tattersall, clocked that, and we got the cuts out. We went down. I was too young to enter, so my dad had to sign a disclaimer form allowing me to enter, and I entered the event. And they made a big deal of me because I was a kid. I think I was 12 or 13. I was like a kid, and they made a big deal of it. And every time I won a match, they were like, "Oh my god!" They interviewed me and said, "Oh, this kid's only 12 years old, 13 years old," And I was like this mini celebrity within the place. And when you're that age, it gives you it's like, whoa, people care about what I'm doing. And I love the whole thing. I love the whole environment. And that was it. The bug bit, and it bit hard, and it's never gone. And to this day, I love the game of Iron Arms, man. I love it.
When did the showman aspect start to emerge? Have you always had that aspect to your personality, or was it something that you kind of learned in watching other announcers or presenters? When did you get that bug?
The announcing thing actually came through wanting to progress my own endeavor. When I first came into arm wrestling, there was no real super match arm wrestling. It wasn't a thing. It was all main draw competition. Because of the fight background, I always felt that was a flaw. So, and I did a presentation for the WAF countries committee, where I said that I thought that one way of going forward to improve the sport would be to do the elite matches at super match level, and there should be a progressional system where you end up in super matches.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I got laughed at and got told to go back to fight sports. Guys coming in and don't know what I'm talking about. So, which I understand, I'm the new guy on the block and I had a new thing and that was that. But I started to produce a couple of promotions which were based around super matches. I'd done a promotion which was a main draw competition called Iron Arm, the Iron Arm UK, and I did the Iron Arm for a number of years. It was extremely successful. And then off the back of that, the sort of elite matches were super matches because you had the opportunity then to promote the athletes, for people to buy the characters, to them to gain some notoriety and become a vehicle to carry the sport forward. And that was something I bought into heavily and started Arm War Super Series in 1992. And it really started to gain traction, really started to do well. We did the Trident series and we did other things around the local area where we were one-on-one. And you could match make and make the matches more close, if you will. In any main draw competition, there's a disparity of levels until you get to a level. And it may be that your arm wrestlers meet at any time during that competition and you get to see the essence of what arm wrestling really is at its best. I wanted to try to crystallize that more fully, and I feel like the only way you can do that is via super match competition. no one was listening. So no one was listening. I did it myself. And in doing so, I needed to wear a lot of caps. One of the caps was presenting, and I soon gained recognition as that. People that as I say, I still had a lot of connections within fight sports. A lot of the people that worked in that environment said, "Hey, would you fancy? What about, you don't fight anymore, but boxing, fight sports. Would you be interested in coming and announcing this boxing match, this Muay Thai match, this kickboxing match?" Yeah, sure, because I love the sports, So it was a very, very easy transition. And the other side of it was strongman, which I was always heavily invested and involved with. I had close personal friends in that environment as well. And so it was a very smooth and a very easy transition for me. And it's, yeah, from tiny acorns and all that.
Yeah, and so with the strongman was something you transitioned early from being a fan into was that just running parallel to this arm wrestling endeavor?
Yeah, I had personal friends who were high level strongmen, trained with them. I mean, yeah, met Eddie Hall very early in his career, and we're still close personal friends. Eddie was on the phone to me just yesterday, and we speak very regularly. And I work with him at weekend. He was my co-commentator at weekend. So within my friend circle are a lot of professional strongmen. We're like-minded. You've got a lot of carryover. I feel very comfortable in that environment, and I've always loved the sport. Any strength and combat sport I'm drawn to. My first love is and always will be arm wrestling. Strongman is right in there. I love it. And any and all sort of derivative of that. If you go to powerlifting, I love that. Olympic weightlifting, I love that. Any strength sport, CrossFit, I love it. I'm a big sort of strength and combat sport fan, and I feel like I've got a very deep understanding of those elements and the technical elements within them, and that helps me to be a better commentator, I believe.
Have you ever come across any other sports and felt that I could apply the Neil pickup treatment here and make this maybe obscure sport entertaining? I could make something out of this?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of opportunities that you see in that respect. And I think very much with anything in life, it's around trying to not put square pegs into round holes. I think you can, if you have a natural propensity to do that and the skill set lines up, I think that always is a better mix. I mean, it's interesting when Jake Ward started doing commentary and doing arm wrestling generally. I may have upset Jake at that time because I said, I actually don't think that's your natural suit. I think you're actually more suited to something like a game show host or a DJ, because Jake, while he's not got any technical basis in arm wrestling at all, so there's no genuine carryover as there was with fight sports, strength sports. For me, I'd competed in both sports at a pretty decent level, so it made, and it was more sense. I'd been a world champion in arm wrestling, and I believe that I was a good arm wrestler and had a lot of knowledge in that. So there was a lot of opportunity for me to do that well and to carry over the knowledge. Jake is like a endless, relentless ball of energy. And if you look at that and where that is most suited, game show host, DJ, something like that, radio is he's got a massive amount of carryover in that area, and I actually believe he'll go on to realise that at some point. We'll see, won't we? But I do think ultimately the point I'm making here is square pegs round holes. I think you have, if you find what you love and you also all of the stars align, it makes sense because you do have the heritage in that, you do have the pedigree in that. I could go and commentate other sports. I don't feel that I would be as well suited as I am with arm wrestling, with strongman, with fight sports. It's definitely more aligned with my background.
Yeah, and so interesting. I mean, you are synonymous with that, and as a casual fan before knowing your involvement in arm wrestling. I knew you from strongman through being a fan of that, and that was my first. And it was a pleasant surprise. I initially just thought that you were an announcer and a commentator, but then when I
Yes.
found out like this is actually your sport, I found that really intriguing. And I thought, well, I wonder if there'll be a time where you'll be known more for the arm wrestling than for the strongmen in the mainstream. And maybe those days are fast approaching.
Yeah, it's I suppose it depends where your focus is as somebody who's sort of consuming that. I think a lot of people, I think it's an accurate point, Dave. I think a lot of people still don't know that I'm an arm wrestler or was an arm wrestler. And in my mind, I say I'm an arm wrestler because I am.
Yeah.
I started life as an arm wrestler. I've got world championship gold medals, world championship silver medals, world championship bronze medals over many years. I traveled the world extensively. I won tournaments in America, in Eastern Europe, all around Western Europe. It's part of my DNA. It's part of my existence. It's what I did for the length of time. And a lot of people don't know that because prior to the internet was at the dark time, wasn't it? Nobody knew what they don't know. It's funny. People always talk to me about the matches they've seen online in the archive on Arm Wars. And the really interesting thing for me there is I'd retired at that point. That is a fact.
Wow.
There's no Arm Wars match in the archive where I am an active arm wrestler, where I'm training for arm wrestling. None, because I'd already retired. And that's another thing people don't know. So they're not seeing a good version of me there. That is a dire version of me. Out of shape, not training, 3 joint rebuilds in. That is not a good version of me at all.
So we have no record of peak Neil Pickup, is what you're saying. There's no.
There'll be some
there are
out
only
there.
photographs, grainy photographs.
I've got hours of footage, mate. I've got hours
Oh,
of footage.
good.
But it's prior to the time when I never went to arm wrestling competitions and thought, oh, I need to get my video camera out. It wasn't a thing. YouTube wasn't a thing. The internet wasn't a thing. I was very much I was Bet Kilioniani, mate. I was in that sinister focus. I was not going there thinking about making a
content or
any kind of content. That was not in my mind at all. I was going there to keep up. That's what I was doing. I was going to,
And you hold this really interesting place in wrestling now, where your influence is all throughout the sport and across promotions as well. It's you have an omnipresence within the sport. How do you manage to keep on side with all of those sometimes competing interests as well, and still run your own promotion and somehow make that work and not upset too many people?
Honestly, mate, I have never. I'll tell you a genuine truth. Prior to the dark card, the original dark card issue, which I do believe was assisted along its way, marketed along its way, and miscommunicated a great deal. I have a number of failings there. I could have done things a lot better. But the manner in which that was put out there, into the timing of that, the manner in which it's put out, there was a lot of misunderstanding around it. Prior to that, I had literally no black marks at all on my entire resume. And I haven't had any since. And I'm very proud of that. And I think that people who know me know that above all things, I am straight. I've always been a heart on your sleeve type guy in terms of I don't pull punches in that respect. I don't necessarily want to go out and dramatize stuff on the internet, on social media. In fact, a lot of the time when I'll do that kind of thing on social media, if you want the truth, I'm taking a piss. I'm actually having a laugh. It's what we call, I don't know whether it goes across to Australia the same, but what we call banter.
Yeah.
I'm actually joking. There's not a great deal. If I've got something, if I'm genuinely upset about something, or I would really tend to say it to the person first. Even the situation with myself and Ryan Bowen at that time, I approached Ryan, and myself and Ryan had spoken face to face, spoken on messages, spoken on the phone, far more detailed manner than we ever did publicly.
Mm-hmm.
That is just the situation. Now, outside of that, the only people that I believe I've ever had any issue with is Ryan Bowen and Paul Maiden, actually. And that's it. There are
Yep.
none, and there are no other people in the sport of arm wrestling in a 38-year, well, coming up 39-year history in the sport that I have ever had a problem with. It's just not happened, and that's allowed me to work with people, which I always will do. I'm not going to try to hoodwink people, railroad people. I'm very straightforward. May not always agree with everything, and they may not agree and be aligned with me. But I do think people appreciate that I'm a straight shooter in that respect.
But that's I guess 37 years in a sport, and what I guess I'm curious about, because there aren't too many. For instance, if we take the fight game, you wouldn't necessarily have a commentator from the UFC on the PFL or on one championship or on another promoter, and you're one of those few voices that you will see, like I say, with an omnipresence, and also I guess then run your own promotion. You've got your own show there as well, which is stands on its own as a world-class offering as well. And I guess there would be perhaps some trepidation with having the face of your show being somebody who also has their own show, for instance. But you do occupy this peculiar space in our sport that I don't think we're ever going to see anybody else ever have.
Again, Dave, I think that comes. People understand what we are trying to do, and I'll expand on this in a moment. Sorry, I know we've only got half an hour, so it's difficult. Or however long you have, go as long as you want, but
as long as you like.
I don't want to bore fans with it. But in some respects, one of the considerations behind Arm Wars at that time was to facilitate a different environment within the sport. People who were at the early advent of arm wrestling on the internet will and maybe tuned into the fix, and this is why some of the sting was there with the Ryan situation. They would have been very aware of constant conversation on there between myself, Ryan, Ray, Paul, about my ultimate aspiration to produce a show in what I called an as live format. What I mean by that is it would have the same excitement of a live show, but the production value of an edited show. And I just spoke about that a great deal. Now, one of the if you are not doing something live, that means that you don't have to necessarily show it at that time. It's more it premieres, like a film release, if you will.
Yeah.
But if people don't know the detail of that, they don't know the results of that, then the excitement is still retained, because they can't be disappointed about not seeing something live when they don't know it actually happened, if that makes sense. And that was the concept of the dark card, the original dark card. I'd spoken about that to the members of the Fix crew and to various other members about that, obviously preemptively. And I was trying to come up with that concept. So it was almost going to be like a surprise birthday party, like, oh, this happened. You didn't know it happened, but it's highly produced, it's high quality. Now, in actuality, I made mistakes there in not communicating it as fully I expect, because that's what I was called out upon. But we actually over-delivered against everything we said we would deliver. The show went out at the time it went out for an extremely low cost, massively, and I'm not just saying this. Go watch it. Massively over-delivered on the content that you got with that. It wasn't just a one-off thing. And the best thing about that, and the proudest thing I have about that, is people did vote themselves, and we retained a huge amount of membership and of support within that, because people know when they're getting quality, when they're getting value for money. And I always have pointed to the sort of time will tell. Time will show. The record will show. I believe in my case, the record has shown that in sort of 38, 39 years, I've always been able to occupy that area. And going forward, I've got good relationships with literally everybody in the sport that I'm aware of, with the exception of 2 people. And that is it. And I've even been vocal about why that is. And I don't wish them any harm. When I speak about the arm gods, and, you know, I don't wish arm gods any ill. Go on, kill it. I hope you do well. It's not my cup of tea. The manner in which they operate is not what I do. That doesn't mean it's right. It means it's not what I do. So I'm not comfortable with putting my name to some of that. I've always tried to promote arm wrestling in the most professional manner I possibly can. And the biggest thing there, I want arm wrestling to be extremely everyman. I want arm wrestling to be a family show. I was the 12-year-old kid, if you recall, Dave, at the start of this, when we wind it all back. I was that guy. So, yeah, maybe it's biased, maybe there's some romance, maybe it's outdated, maybe it's old-fashioned. But I suppose I am a little old-fashioned now in that respect. But I want you, I want Matt, I want anybody in Australia, anybody around the world to be able to show up to any of my events that I put on or that I produce and that I show. And if you want to, if your son, your daughter has any aspiration to be an arm wrestler, I want them to feel very welcome, very safe, and their parents to be in an environment where they're completely happy with the kid to see that, to absorb that. And if there is any deviation from that, it is the exception, not the norm. I don't like the whole standing on the, you know, I was a very, very intense, very fiery arm wrestler. I've always been, as a young man, I was obviously as aggressive competitor. I came out of fight sports. That's where my whole lineage is. But I didn't shout on the stage effing and seeing. That's not what it's about. That's not how I project visceral competitive nature. It simply isn't. I want to project a certain image, and that image doesn't correlate with thuggery, doesn't correlate with being in any way crass. It's not me. So I'm not putting my name to that. I'm putting my name to things which I believe are more professionally produced. I love working with East versus West because I think it's about the highest level of the sport of arm wrestling that we have. I think the cards are exceptional. I think the matches on those cards are truly exceptional. They excite me as a fan. I don't. Most, you know, let's not just talk about the giant promotions. There are a lot of amazing promotions in the sport. Some of the stuff that you guys have done over there with the AWE, no problem with that at all. No problem with Arm Wars, Arm Sport Entertainment over in the US. Love what Tim does there. Love a lot of that stuff, and others. You know, massive myriad. In fact, I don't know many that I don't like. If you're doing an arm wrestling competition, I probably like it. And I'm probably watching. If I have got a spare moment, I have my phone on. If I can see anybody's show is going live, I'm on there. I am a huge fan of the sport of arm wrestling, and I love to take that on board. It's what I enjoy, you know. It's what I enjoy. It's what I love. I love taking in arm wrestling. So that is really, I think, what's allowed me to sort of transcend and move across promotions. I always try to move out of the way for other promotions and not be restrictive of them, be respectful of what they're doing. Case in point, we planned to do to launch the Arm Wars 6 months ago. We planned to put the dark card on the 25th of January. As it became nearer the time, we found out that Knuckles Up were going to go on that night live. We moved. We moved back. We moved back because I don't want to create a problem for what Chris and Will are doing. We are not live. Therefore, it gives us the luxury to be able to move that. Why would I put this on at the same time as Will and Chris? Why? They're doing a great job. They're trying to do their thing. Let them do their thing. I don't want to be restrictive of that. The dark card, we've just shown the first part. We're actually going to move the second part to the weekend of the 22nd of February because there's a lot coming up for East versus West. Prior to that, we want the focus to retain on East versus West through that period of time. Right now, it is the pinnacle of the sport. I don't want to be restrictive in that respect. In fact, I'm going over to Tbilisi to help push that train forward. I want to help promotions that are elevating the sport of arm wrestling. It's funny, the competition thing within arm wrestling always makes me laugh a little, if I'm honest, because we're so niche. I really don't see how something that Engin does negatively affects Arm Wars. I don't see how something Knuckles Up, AWE, negatively impacts Arm Wars. I'm supportive of all promotions because I don't fear those promotions. I want them to succeed. I can't say it any clearer than that, lads, really, I suppose.
Well, maybe we'll just go to the comments, and then maybe we'll find out a little bit more about what's coming up next in 2025 for Neil.
That's right. I just wanted to show Neil's
Look
jacket.
at that tux. That was very impressive. You really stepped it up in the tux game, that last event. I made some notes. I put in a call to my tailor shortly thereafter and said, "Mate, we got some work to do. Look at these."
You know, I gotta give a shout out
sequins.
to that.
Sorry,
I have a lady that makes those, makes a lot of the kit, because the thing is, you see, you can buy quite a lot of nice kit online, but it doesn't. They don't do it in fat boy sizes. Fat lad sizes are a little challenging. So I have a couple of great contacts that make all my gear, my suits, the shoes, the custom made stuff. So trying hard to get something that fits fat lad size, you know. But
so
I want it to
there
be
is a fashion line coming out. That's what you're telling us very shortly, 2025.
Yeah, I want it to be a show. I mean, Britain's Strongest Man the other night. Jesus Christ, it was like a Madonna concert. I started in a black suit, but the thing weighs, I kid you not, the thing weighs, I don't know, 7 kilos, 8 kilos, and it's super thick. And started, and they put the searcher spot on us. So we were at the Sheffield Arena. Place is packed.
Wow.
Absolute sellout. And they hit the searcher spot, and you can feel the heat from it. It is literally radiating through. And I'm in a all black suit and this heavyweight suit. I'm like 20 minutes in, I'm like, holy shit. I felt like I was under a hairdryer, like an ant. So I was like, I went over to Colin Bryce and Darren Sadler. I'm like, I'm going to pull a Madonna. I'm going for a lighter weight jacket. As soon as we do this next change, I'm out of this black one. And they said, yeah, you are sweating like hell. So that's why. If anybody was wondering why I changed, that was why. It was necessity. I felt like I was in a sauna. Yeah.
I've seen the amount of work that Dave puts into his announcing jobs, and yeah, in between rounds and in between fights, he comes like jackets off instantly. And
I don't know how. You say 3 sentences and I lose 2 kilos. I don't know. These kids are in there for 4 rounds. I don't know. Crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, they're not wearing a suit though.
yeah, that's right. I am wearing a suit. Yeah.
Maybe that could be a new thing: fighting in suits. You get choked out by your tie and stuff. Anyway, so we'll jump into the comments. We'll say hello to a couple of the regulars here. The Drew, of course, always in first with his smiley face there. He says hello to Neil Pickup. And
can I just say, the Drew, you know, the Drew, Mr. Peanut, these guys they're everywhere and anywhere on every show. Can I just say to you lads, the Drew, Mr. Peanut, and all like you, my hat is off. Thank you for supporting the sport like you do, guys. Honestly, amazing. Whenever I check into any show, there you are. You're there. You're just taking it, and it's honestly, it's fans like that are going to push this thing forward. So, cheers, lads. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, not only does he jump in every stream, but he also helps out by putting up links and channel information and all sorts here. And he's done the same for you there with Arm Wars, the Dark Card 4. Check it out now.
He's the de facto producer of every arm wrestling podcast in the world, isn't
he? Absolutely. And we've also got Out of Tune who's jumped in to say good evening or / morning, lads. It is evening for us and it is morning for Neil. So you covered both sides of it. Well done there.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Swedish Arm Wrestling Television
Craig
has jumped in to say hello, and yes, Yes, doing fantastic stuff over there. And the Drew has again helped out there and put a link to SATV's channel. So have a look at what he's doing. He's doing amazing things.
Yeah, Greg is awesome kid.
Definitely. The Drew asks, Neil, how's your wrist after pulling with Eddie?
No change, mate. Really, my wrist is beyond repair. It would appear. There was an opportunity to do something with stem cells, but it's unrealistic for me. Really, thank you to to Vitacell for your assistance with that. Thank you for Rob Carstendike, wonderful guy. Tried to assist with that, but when I showed Dr. Mark and Rob and the guys over there the scans of my wrist, they said, "Okay, that's serious damage you've got here."
They just went,
no.
They were of the opinion that it would take many hits and over a sustained period, 1 to 2 years of consistent, and then that's not viable for them. It's not viable for me to be over in the States doing that all the time. The cost is tremendous. So, yeah, look, I wouldn't change a thing in terms of the way the career went, apart from the super heavy show lift stuff. I think is stupid. If I had my time over again, I wouldn't do that, and I probably would stay out of the way of the super heavyweight guys. When you're the 176, 187 guy, it's not necessarily the best idea to compete in the many weight classes, particularly when you're naturally trained, which I'm proud to say I always have been. Not a great idea. So the wrist is pretty knackered, mate. Hence all the wristbands on here, and why I've constantly got those on. I'm actually trying to develop a style of pulling which will negate my wrist a little bit. It's challenging, but I'm going to try and do more about that. I'd love to arm wrestle again, as I've said before on various shows. I'm not under any illusions that I can be a good arm wrestler again, a world-class arm wrestler again. It's just not going to happen. I'm in my 50s. I am naturally trained and will remain so. That's not going to happen. But if I have the opportunity to arm wrestle again and put on entertaining matches for people, and if anybody cares, if anybody is interested in seeing that, I would try to come back and compete to a level. That's all I can offer, really, guys. But I'd love to do it. I love the sport. Every time I'm ever in the environment where there's an arm wrestling table, I can't tell you. I am projecting onto there.
Yeah, it's impossible. It's so funny for training every Sunday. There'll always be somebody that turns up and goes, "Yeah, I'm just coming to hang out. I'm just socializing. I'm not getting on the table tonight." And then within 20 minutes, they're over there like,
So we little aside, we went to Engin Terzi's house, right? After the East versus West, and the night before we finished the East versus West, and a lot of guys are coming up saying, "No, can I just have one pull with you? Just one pull?" And I'm like, "No, honestly, guys, I'll be in agony." And it really hurts. It's nerve damage. So and my wrist swells up, and I can't move my wrist. And obviously, your right arm, you're trying to do everything, and it's agonizing. But then, I have a few beers, don't I? People start buying me beers. And I've had a couple of beers, and there's these lads there. Where the hell were they from? I mean, Austria or something. They're not a group of guys, and they're just great lads. And I'm having and one of the lads said, "Oh, come on, just go on for 1 minute." So I go on the table, and this guy's not a strong puller, and I'm okay. I can control him easy, and that's that. And then the next one. I end up pulling like 15 frigging guys, and I'm pretty. I've had a few beers, and I think I'm okay. And I wake up the next morning. Oh my word, it was huge. I felt terrible. We go to Engin Terzi's house, and we go into the gym, and everybody's doing a little bit. And I thought, oh, maybe get a little pull with Engin. I said, oh, me and you could have a little pull. And he said, oh, no, just go on the table with Robert Baxter to warm up. And thank God it was Robert Baxter. Thank God. It was Robert Baxter, because Robert Baxter was like super. If you guys don't know Robert Baxter's a former world champion, super strong guy, very nice guy, very calm guy. So he's just nice and easy, very slow. Start to pull, and he says, "You okay? You want to put a bit of pressure on?" So I start to put a bit of pressure on. My fucking wrist dislocated. And I can tell you now, for the next 2 hours, oh my word, I had some pain that day. It's very rare I'm quiet. I was sat for like 3 hours. I took like 6 painkillers. Oh my, I was sweating. Oh, that was horrible. And that gave me a very, very stark reminder. Don't be a fool, Neil. You're old and knackered. Stay off the table.
You don't want a medical emergency in Turkey. That's something.
Oh, man, that gave me some. I felt terrible all day, but yeah, too old, mate. Too old.
Let me finish the comments here, and then we'll look at wrapping things up, I reckon. But Sam Wells says the man Neil Pickup to pick down the matches that will be deep inside the Arm Wars Super Series. There we go. And Michael Ford says, awesome to see Neil on here. There's lots of fans of Mr. Pickup around the world. And we got here. Mr. Peanut says, Arm Gods. Shenanigans, mostly fun, sometimes distracting. It's enjoyable. All right. That's great. Amazing career. It was tough getting arm wrestling news in the 80s. Long distance phone calls had bills up to $200 to $300 a month. Cobra always kept me in the loop on international folks. And Neil has had an amazing career. The Drew says, I'm poor, but I do what I can. The arm wrestling community is the best in the world. Grant Law.
And we are richer for you.
That's right. Grant Law has jumped in. He says, make no mistake, Neil and Travis.
Now, Grant Law actually does an exceptional Neil Pickup impersonation.
I've said that to Neil once.
Yeah, you have? I was going to say, maybe we get an audio file over, and so Neil can hear it, because he does a good job of it. It's pretty good.
I think Neil wasn't as impressed as we were.
Oh, well, and it was really, really shit and probably disrespectful. So
you know what?
Sorry, Grant, we're not friends with you anymore.
I'm all for it. I am all for it, Grant.
Ifan Bai says hello, and we've got our South African friend Gert here. He's an interesting show. I've learned so much, which is fantastic. Drew's put a link to Vitacell there for stem cells. And,
that's nice.
Absolutely. And Mr. Peanut, now in the 90s, we ran arm wrestling with the original Tough Man fights, would host arm wrestling event bars, sell tickets to fighters, ring girls, championship arm wrestlings at halftime of fights. There you go. And last one here, Gert again from South Africa. Good to see all the support and respect between all different organizations. You all have the same thing in mind, and that is to grow the sport of arm wrestling.
Well, ours was world domination, but that didn't work out. So well, Neil, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. It's been great to hear more of your story and to just learn where it all came from. So and although it's been sad to hear of your parents' ill health, it's nonetheless inspirational to hear some of those things that you've found from your dad that have kept you on a path in this sport that's made the sport all the richer. So wishing your folks all the very best, and thanks so much for joining us, mate.
Thank you, Dave. Cheers, Matt. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks again for the invitation. Honor and a pleasure to come on, and thanks to everybody who checks out the shows and stuff. Appreciate it.
Good on you.
Wonderful.
Guys.